So yeah, as I said, my name is Antonio Zapater. I am UK based, so I live in the UK, although as you can guess by my name, I'm natively from Spain. I'm a pre-sales consultant engineer in Embarcadero Technologies, and as I was discussing with Klaus, if you have any technical questions regarding of any of our products, so not only Delphi, but C++ Builder, well, RAD Studio in general, but Interbase, RAD Server, or any licensing issue regarding ELC or any of our products, I'm your guy, so feel free to ping me. You have my email down there. In this session, we're going to be discussing RAD Studio 12.2, what's new, even though it was released a few weeks ago, but it has been quite a big release, and we're going to be seeing the main, not all of them, because it will be more than 45 minutes, but the main highlights of the presentation. But again, before we go into too much detail, as I said, I'm a pre-sales consultant and engineer in Embarcadero. But even though I joined Embarcadero 2 years ago, actually the 1st of November, it was my second year or my second anniversary in Embarcadero. But I've been a Delphi developer for 15 years. So pretty much all my working life has been linked to Delphi. I've been also developing Linux microservices using Delphi. That's an area that not a lot of people look into. So that's something I would recommend you to check out. But I've been also a full stack web developer using technologies like Laravel, Bootstrap, or Vue. I also did some React and I hated it. And also a big fan of Docker or anything related with Docker, like Kubernetes, stuff like that. DevOps technology in general. I'm not a master whatsoever, but it's a technology that I'm very interested in. I heavily use almost on a daily basis. And it's quite interesting to Dockerize, for example, Linux applications developed with Delphi. Embarcadero, as most of you probably know, is part of a bigger company called Idera. In our case, we're part of Idera and Tooling division, and that includes Embarcadero with Delphi, C++ Builder, RAD Studio, and Interbase, but also includes UltraEdit, which is a very popular text editor, and also Whole Tomato, that the main product of Whole Tomato is Visual Assist. This is a plugin or a component that it was available for Visual Studio, but now we've after the acquisition from Idera, we brought from exclusive Visual Studio, and we included as well in RAD Studio for the time being, only for the C++ Builder side of things. We will see if you, in case you haven't been following the version 12 release, you will see what I'm talking about. Okay, this is the agenda, or the main agenda, what we're going to be talking about today. But let's get into it. And first, let's talk about C++ new features coming in 12.2. As I said, in 12.0, we started like a very, very ambitious journey. We fully revamped the whole tool chain in C++ Builder. We integrated Visual Assist as well, natively in RAD Studio. And although we released this new tool chain as a preview, version 12.0, and version 12.1, and now 12.2, of course, we kept improving this new tool chain, and now it's done. So before that, you had to manually select that you wanted to use the new tool chain. Now it's the new default. So job done, as you can see, ticked. And now when you create a new project in C++ Builder, it's created already with a new tool chain by default. And finishing this, it came also with 3 new exciting things. Now you can manage packages using CMake and also to use Ninja. We will see an example in a second. And one of the most exciting ones for me, which is parallel building, and we will see a few charts to compare the building speed between multiple versions. But let's talk about first how or what brings new as well in 12.2, this new tool chain. In version 12.1, it wasn't possible to link dynamically libraries. You had to link them statically, which means that you had to include the libraries in your binary. Now in this version, it's possible to use external libraries, so you can dynamically link those. I'm talking about C++, by the way, not Delphi yet. So in 12.2, there was a big request from a lot of customers with very big pieces of software, and they needed to have the ability to split their applications in multiple libraries. So now this finally is back. So now we're matching, as I mentioned, all the whole toolchain and all the features available in previous versions of C++ Builder. The second new feature, or not new feature, or major feature, is the possibility to use CMake. CMake, it's, how to explain it in case you don't know, CMake is a built-in tool and also dependency manager. So you can link a lot of open source libraries, for example, and link them directly to your C++ Builder package. And then you configure everything using CMake to generate your binary. It's the de facto standard and in the C++ community. It's very, very popular, CMake. So we created our own version. It's available on Getit. So in case you want to use CMake for C++ Builder, now it's available on Getit and you can download directly. It's absolutely great, as I said, in case you want to use any third-party libraries, because before all this revamp of our toolchain, the main problem, well, apart from all the problems, but it was a very recurrent request from customers saying that they wanted to use available third-party libraries. And you can imagine that the C++ ecosystem is massive. But our old tool chain didn't allow to use modern techniques in C++. There was a lot of ifs when it came to use something you could download from GitHub, for example. But now, because we're following the C++ standards, now you can use pretty much any library out there, and you can use CMake to simplify the process of compiling everything in a very, very quick way. And also supports VCL and FireMonkey. So it's not only from console, so you can create your VCL applications using any third-party libraries out there as well for C++. Let's jump to the next one, because this is the crucial one, at least for me, is how fast the new toolchain is. We used to have, back in the day, a way to compile using the argument jobs, but that wasn't, let's say, great. And we know, if you've been working with C++, you know what's the main pain point. That is compile time. With C++, compile time is concerningly slow, but it's not because of C++ Builder, but C++ in general, because it does all these optimizations and very, very low level stuff that it takes time to compile your applications. So it's a slow language to compile. And as you can see in this little comic on the right, it's a general problem in the industry. So every time you're compiling something, your developers are pretty much just sword fighting because they have nothing else to do. Previously, we used to provide Twine Compile, which was a great tool. In previous versions, in 12.0 and 12.1, you kind of use CMake and Ninja, but it wasn't integrated in the IDE, and you had a lot of manual setup. Ninja is a compiler for C++, in case you're not familiar with. And we used to have the argument jobs, but again, it wasn't ideal. It was complex to set up. But in 12.2, we've brought back jobs, and it's completely implemented, and it's very fast. And again, this is the default. So it's on by default, nothing for you to do. And the only thing you need to do, if you have a C++ Builder project, just install 12.2 and open it. That's it. So let's do some comparisons here. This is a project we generated synthetically, so it's not real code, but so we use a tool to generate all this code. But this is a project that has 5,000 files, 360,000 lines of code in total. And we've been using different technologies to see how quick the compiler is. This first one is a classic C++ compiler we used to ship. It's really not recommended to keep using this one because it doesn't follow any of the new modern controls and optimizations. So it looks like it's very fast, but it's because it's doing way less than modern compilers. So we really encourage you to stop using this one. It's pre-Clang 10, I think it comes from Borland days. So that's the time that took to compile this project with the 5,000 files. On the right, we have MSVC with Ninja. This is Microsoft Visual C, and Ninja, it's Microsoft compiler. So just for reference, this is the same project that takes, with a modern C++ toolchain, it takes up to 30 seconds to compile exactly the same project. Then we have Microsoft Visual C++ as well, but with a /np, which is the Microsoft equivalent to our jobs argument. And as we can see, because jobs, it uses multi-cores, so it uses multi-threads, it can compile much faster. In case, of course, these tests have been run exactly in the same computer. You have the details down there in case you're wondering the hardware of the computer where we were running these tests. Then we have our 64-bit compiler using Ninja, and as you can toolchain, sorry, using Ninja, and as you can see, it's already faster than Microsoft's, and it's under 10 seconds. But the new default we're providing, so this is the new default with a full modern C++ toolchain, we are in the 5 seconds territory here. So as you can see here, we don't know 100% sure yet, but we're potentially one of the fastest, if not the fastest, C++ builder, C++ compiler, sorry, in the market. So that's a huge deal. We're still benchmarking this because, as I said, this is synthetic code. All this percentage we've seen doesn't necessarily replicate in your project because, of course, each project is different. And we are still heavily benchmarking this. But this is, for example, with a real world code. This is Cat2, which is a very popular C++ library. And this is using our old Win64 compiler, the one that came, still available actually, with C++ Builder. So this is the old toolchain compiler we use, Win64. And the red one is the new one. Exactly the same project, real world project. So even if we remove all the Microsoft compiler comparison, etc., if we compare what we were providing before 12.2 and what we're providing now, we can see that the improvement is absolutely insane. And this, as I said, this is a real world project. But instead of all these words, let's show a demo. And for this demo, what I'd like to show is, let me close this, a demo we've been offering for many years. So it's not the demo we created specifically to make it look fast in this webinar. This is a project that has been available for many years on our GitHub repository. It's a maze generator created with C++. It's a fairly simple project. It has only like 6-7 units. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to check that I don't have any precompiled binaries or libraries or anything. So I'm going to compile this from scratch. And I'm going to use, well, in case you're not familiar, we're still providing the previous compilers, the Win32 and Win64, because of course, we don't want to force you to jump to the new one yet. Maybe you face any problems or whatever. So you still have available the previous compilers. And the new one is Win64-bit modern. And what we're going to do here, let's compile first this project that, as I said, we haven't touched at all for this presentation. It's exactly the same project we've been providing for many years. Let me open the messages so we can see the compilation times. And I'm going to build this. So this is using the old tool chain. Probably if you're a Delphi developer. No, sorry, I should have used build C++, not the other one. If you're a Delphi developer, probably this looks very slow to you because you're used to just seconds for compilation. But yeah, C++ is a slow language. And as I said, not because of the C++ builder, but the technology itself. So in this case, this project took 15 seconds to compile with our previous compiler, 64-bit. If we compile now in 64 modern, so 15 seconds compared to, and also I want to leave clear that this is a very humble VM I have here. So like 4 cores, so it's very, very basic. So we have here, and this is 9 seconds, so from 15 to 9 seconds in a 4-core computer, very basic. So this is not a real world computer. And as I said, now the new compiler uses multi-thread and multi-core. So the more hardware you have, the fastest your compilation is going to be. Same thing with the RAM. I only have 4 gigs of RAM in this VM. So as you can see here, with a very humble computer, we're getting already like a 30% optimization using exactly the same project. So hopefully that can give you a perspective of if you have a very powerful computer, the compilation times are going to be much, much faster. So if you use 12.2, if you use C++ Builder, please download 12.2 and try to compile your project with a new tool chain, because it's going to make a huge difference. So yeah, as I said, this new parallel building solution and the whole new tool chain scales with your computer. So the more cores and the more RAM you have, the fastest your building times are going to be. So please upgrade from classic to the new tool chain. Okay, let's jump to Delphi. In 12.2, we've provided the first 64-bit version of our compiler. And this is something that sometimes people get a bit confused about. So, they ask me, Antonio, but I was already creating 64-bit applications with Delphi. What do you mean with a 64-bit compiler? And here's the deal. The compiler itself, the binary, the compiler that generated your application, that used to be, well, still is, a 32-bit application. Although capable of creating 64-bit binaries, but the compiler itself, it was 32-bit. So now we've provided a 64-bit binary, so we can virtually use unlimited RAM. I mean, I think it's like, I don't remember the number, but a ridiculous amount of terabytes of RAM for a compiler. At the moment, the main limitation of the 32-bit compiler is that it can only address up to 4 gigs of RAM. So that's for very, very big projects, that could be a problem. So in this 12.2 version, we're providing the first 64-bit compiler that at the moment is only available on Enterprise and Architect, and also you can use it only from the command line. So it's not integrated with the IDE. The reason for this is because the IDE is still 32-bit, so it's very difficult or almost impossible to make a good communication layer between the 64-bit compiler being 64-bit and the IDE still being 32-bit. That's the reason why at the moment it needs to be used from the command line. As I said, available only in Enterprise and Architect at the time of this presentation. We're also providing 64-bit version of Delphi LSP. It's not the default, it's not activated by default, but it can be activated in the IDE. It's also available in Enterprise and Architect. Also, another question I usually get is, but how do you manage to integrate the Delphi LSP being 64-bit with the IDE? Delphi LSP, in case you don't know, is the auto-completion and helper that highlights errors and stuff like that in your application. And that's because Delphi LSP is a fully independent application running, and it has a communication layer using JSON RPC. I don't want to go into too much technical detail, but it's an abstracted, agnostic communication layer that is a standard. It's not like we came up with this. It's a standard communication type. So it's just JSON files going back and forth between Delphi LSP and the IDE. That's why we can provide a 64-bit binary, because it's another application running in the background that the IDE doesn't care if it's 64-bit or 32-bit. As I said, you can activate it in case you're experiencing problems with large, very, very large projects. Again, this first version is only available for Enterprise and Architect editions. Smart Code Insight has been our first approach to AI. So now we're starting to integrate AI tools in the IDE. We followed a very conservative, that's the word I like to use, conservative approach, because we've got like a lot of requests from customers saying we would like to have AI integrated in the IDE. And we understand that the appeal of AI is big because it can speed up your process. But on the other hand, there is a lot of concerns about AI and how it's integrated and how it's being used and what's going on with all our code. We know that we have a lot of customers. For example, they don't allow their developers to use AI because of IP concerns. So we don't know what's going on with our code that's been sent to the cloud somewhere. And even though Google and OpenAI, etc., they keep saying that they're not using our code to train their models. That's what they say today. And so it's a complex balance to find, and how we integrate AI so you have control over everything. So we followed a very interesting approach. In our case, we integrated the IDE with 4 different technologies, all LLMs. You can integrate it with OpenAI, which is ChatGPT, really. Gemini, which is the Google's AI. Claude, which is Anthropic, which is another player that is getting very popular. But also we're offering an offline solution using Llama, which is the Meta large language model, Meta, aka Facebook. This is an offline model because you can host it locally in your own infrastructure. You don't need to upload your data to the cloud, so you're in control of what's going on. Of course, it requires some extra effort on your side because you need to have this setup. We're providing a Docker image, a basic Docker image for testing. We wouldn't recommend you to use it in production because it doesn't use GPU acceleration. It's purely CPU, so it's not very speedy, but it's good enough to just test and see if it works for you. But that's a tool that personally I really like because I'm in control of what's going on with my code. So I want to live clear as well that we don't act as brokers at all. So whichever technology you use, you're going to configure it in the IDE, and then it's up to you which company you're going to be working with. This information has been sent directly to the servers, so Embarcadero doesn't know which option you've chosen, or in any case, your code has been sent not to Embarcadero first, as other companies are doing, and then to the AI you chose. It's been sent directly to whichever platform you choose. I just wanted to emphasize that this is our approach, that we don't want to be in the middle. So it's up to you how you use AI, or if you want to use AI at all. Everything is optional and actually disabled by default. And to configure it, you just need to go to the options, and you will see a new Smart Code Insight, and then you have multiple tabs to choose which one you want to integrate it with. And then, of course, each provider has a different setup or parameters based on, although they're very similar, all of them. But we have in the doc wiki for each service, how you can configure it, and the data you need to get from the provider. But yeah, some people have said that maybe we should create our own models, etc. And this, of course, is a path we're studying. But for the time being, we want to be very cautious about this new technology and see the best way that you can use it, if you want to use it, and how you want to use it. The integration with the IDE also, we followed a very conservative approach. We know that there are plenty of IDEs out there that they're doing a lot of magic and fixing your code automatically and editing your code, again, in an automatic way. And we've, again, followed a very conservative approach because we're not fully sure. I'm actually personally not sure either if we can rely on AI yet to do all this automatic work for us, because it makes mistakes. And a lot of times it comes back with solutions that are not the most optimal ones, or they're directly broken. So our first approach has been to just be non-destructive, which means that anything related with AI is going to be added as a comment for you to analyze and decide if you want to implement it or not. It's going to be a comment, so you can just select it, remove it if you're not happy with it. So we will never touch your code. Also, the code that's going to be sent to the AI platforms is only going to be the selected text. So in any case, we're sending the whole unit. For context, I know that it can limit sometimes the results, but for, again, IP protection and stuff like that, we weren't sure about sending the whole unit or the whole code of your unit every time you ask a request. So you need to select and then ask a question or ask a specific task. To access all the pre-built features, you simply need to, as I said, select the text, right-click and select the smart code insight. And these are the predefined options that we're providing, like find bugs, explain the code, optimize the code. One I really like, which is convert to C++, because I'm primarily a Delphi developer. So sometimes I need the AI to convert the convert the Delphi code to C++. So that one's quite handy. But let's see a quick demo. As I said, you just need to come here, tools, options. And here in my case, I have two AIs configured. I have ChatGPT with an API endpoint and an API key. But I also configured Ollama, which has been running here in my own network. So this has been sent directly to a server, a very humble server I use here at home. So to use Ollama, I only need, the integration is seamless, so we don't know, well, of course, you pre-configure it, but when you say, for example, convert to Delphi, we're in a C++ project. Now it's sending the request to Ollama. Just bear in mind that this is a very humble server and it's been running locally. So this has not been sent to any like OpenAI or Google or Anthropic or anything. And it takes a while for the first time because it's not warmed up. So Meta needs to be, or Ollama needs to be warmed up. So it's loaded in memory. So the first request, it takes a few seconds. So as you can see here, this has been sent directly from my Ollama instance, but it converted the code to Delphi because that's what I asked for. And as you can see, it has been created as a comment. So it's not modifying my original code. And then I can just decide what I want to do with it, if I want to read the explanation or whatever. As I said, it took a while because first, my server is not meant to be used for AI. You will need proper infrastructure for that. And also, it wasn't loaded in the memory. That's why it took quite a while to be used. If you want to have a chat with the AI, in this case, you can open just the chat, and then you can select to which model you want to ask questions to. I can ask Ollama, or I can ask ChatGPT. And of course, this is because these are the two models that I have configured in my tools options. And this is just purely a chat. You send questions and then you get responses. Also, typical question is this chat context aware? And at the moment, it's not. Because as I said, to be context aware, we need to send the whole unit. And that's a decision that we made that for security purposes, where I'm feeling very comfortable about sending the whole unit. So then the AI chat is context aware. Something that potentially could change in the future, or maybe it could be a parameter that you can decide if you want to send a whole unit or the whole project for context aware. But then again, there's a lot of concerns when it comes to intellectual property and this kind of automatic magic behavior. So this has been our first iteration of integrating AI into Delphi, well, the RAD Studio to be more precise. But yeah, it's an area that we know that it's very, very important at the moment, and we could investigate in different parts and how to improve this first version. Another big new feature has been focus mode. This is a progression from our previous split views new feature that came in 12.1. In case you're not familiar, in version 12.1, we introduced split views, which allows you to have two units open at the same time. Or for example, if you want to have a form open in one side of your screen and then the code related with that form in the second panel, that was a split views. But now in 12.2, we took a step further and we introduced focus mode, which is just a split views on asteroids. But ironically enough, the asteroids are the opposite, which means that focus mode, what it does is it removes all the clutter from the IDE. So you're not going to see the tool panel, the tool palette, or your project manager, or the menu on top. It's going to be you and your code. But you can also use split views inside focus mode. So a screenshot of this is in dark mode, but this, I want to make clear that this is a screenshot of my computer. So the whole monitor. It's not just a selected screenshot. This is the whole, this is what you're going to see when you're in focus mode. And as I said, you can also use a split views, which is very nice. So just for a quick demo, you only need to come here. There's a shortcut, which is Ctrl-Alt-Z. But you get in focus mode, this is what you see. And also you can, as I said, you can also use a split views, and then you can navigate through which units you want to have open on each side. And to get out of focus mode, you just close the tabs and off you go. You come back to your project very, very quickly. Sorry for doing this demo very fast, but we're running out of time and I still have quite a lot to cover. Scroll annotations, it is a very nice feature that you can see here on the right. For example, when you search for a word or when you select a word previously, and it still works, actually, it selects visually all the places where this word is in. But now you can see it as well on the right, very nicely. So you can scroll through using the scroll bar to move through all the appearances of one word in particular. New improvements in the Delphi LSP as well. Now, for example, it follows the colors you define in your project. So it will inherit all your color scheme directly in the Delphi LSP. And also, of course, quality in Delphi LSP to make it more stable. In Visual Assist, which was introduced in 12.0 in the C++ Builder, we also introduced 3 new features. In case you don't know, Visual Assist is an assistant for C++ that does a lot of things very, very nicely. We could spend a whole hour talking about Visual Assist, but unfortunately, we don't have the time. But in version 12.2, we introduced 3 new refactoring methods, which are introduce variable, so to refactor a chunk of code and convert that to a variable definition. We have create from usage and also extract method. So there are 3 refactoring mechanisms available in Visual Assist, plus, of course, significant quality and stability improvements. The main new feature in 12.2 has been the first version of Web Stencils. Web Stencils is a template library that allows you. It's pretty much a server-side script-based integration directly in Delphi and C++ that allows you to process HTML files using your own data, so your own objects. So it's pretty much if you've used in the past like technologies like PHP or any server-side render engine, is that, but integrated with Delphi and C++. It's primarily being used to create websites because it's very good parsing or analyzing HTML files, but you can use it. I've seen already customers using Web Stencils for a lot of other things. No, they don't need to be mandatorily HTML. It's based, for example, if you want to create a fully fledged website, you can use Web Broker, but you can we also integrated it with RAD server, and it's 100% agnostic about the technology you use in your front end. So you can use any JavaScript library, you can use any CSS library or any web technology, because Web Stencils doesn't care about how your website is going to be structured or defined. Also, we found out that it gets along very, very well with a very trendy technology called HTMX. HTMX, I know that this is a lot to take in case you're not familiar with all this technology, but HTMX is it's a new approach to front-end development because it brings back to the server to render the HTML. But it follows a much modern approach because you don't need to refresh the website constantly. So you get this very modern single-page application experience, but without the need of having two full independent projects for the backend and the front end. You have a QR code here in case you're interested in HTMX, so feel free to scan that and take a look. But I mean, the URL is very basic as well, or you can Google it directly. The syntax of Web Stencils, I mean, again, we could spend an hour talking about Web Stencils. I have another session that I do sometimes talking only about Web Stencils. But yes, let's analyze just quickly the examples, and we're going to see an example in a second. This is a way to add, because by default, Web Stencils won't have access to all your data. So you need to tell Web Stencils which data needs to be available for the web. So in this case, we use add_var. A processor is a Web Stencils processor. So we use add_var. We give a name to this object we're creating, object2. Of course, we're creating the object right here, but it could be any other object that has been created anywhere else. And then this is the Web Stencils syntax. As you can see, this is HTML. It's pure HTML, but we sprinkle this with some keywords specific for Web Stencils. In this case, for example, we have an if that we check if the object is, so this object2 is this, this object2 is this one we created up here because we named it object2. And then we can access the properties of the object. We can access the name, we can access simple methods as well that return primitives. So you configure using the add a special symbol and the curly braces to define blocks. And it has a very, very extensive syntax that we don't have the time to go through all the syntax of Web Stencils. But hopefully that this helps you to understand a very, very simple code snippet about how you mix a template. And then this is converted by Web Stencils to a full HTML result. There's multiple ways to access data. You have RTTI, but it's not the only way. So there's also multiple other ways. Like, for example, you can use an event handler, very handy on Value, to even create your own add whatever. So, for example, if you want to have an add timestamp to always return the date and time of your server, you can create your own keywords and then replace them in the on value method. You can use anything that has the get enum method. So anything that is enumerable, it can be used in web stencils. That means that could be an object, could be a list, could be even a data set. So data set is clever enough as well to map all your fields from a data set and access them directly as properties. So if they're web properties from the object, although, for example, here we can see the .company, that's the field name that is included in the data set. Although the syntax, it makes it look like it's a property from an object. At the moment, records, because they're not enumerable, they're not usable in web stencils. This is compatible, as I said, with web broker and RAD server. Web broker, probably it's the easiest way to play around with it if you want to just learn about the technology, but it's not mandatorily to use web broker to use web stencils. As I said, I've even seen customers using web stencils in VCL applications to generate, to process data. So you have a template, and then you pass the data, and then you get an output that doesn't need to be an HTML mandatorily. So you can use it to generate basic reports, etc. As I said, the syntax is quite extensive. This is only a handful of keywords available. So you have query to access HTTP parameters, you can components, you have, of course, for loops, you have import to have like a reusable template. It's very, very extensive. And that's the reason, because also we have the formatting syntax. So what's the layout of your page to be reused on all your websites, and you don't have to be constantly repeating yourself. You can inject even specific items in the header for a specific website, so you don't need to be loading one library constantly. It's, as I said, very, very extensive. There's two components, Web Stencils processor and engine. But my recommendation is going to be, because for explaining Web Stencils in 10 minutes, it's very, very tricky. So my recommendation is for you to download a free book that I've personally written. It's a very light book. I mean, I don't even call it a book. It's really more like a technical guide. It has around 80 pages, and it has plenty of code examples inside the book. It's absolutely free. And also, I created a lot of examples available on GitHub. You can find the links inside the ebook. So I reference those examples inside the book. And you can download the demos, play around with them, of course, see the code, how things have been done. And in case you have any questions, I will be more than happy to answer them in the future. So for this demo, because we only have a few minutes, the only thing I'm going to show you is what you can achieve, or how can you use this Web Stencils demo, because I tried to make it as simple as possible. So you just literally need to open the project, compile, and off you go. This is running already, the Web Stencils demo, and it's running in this URL, localhost 8080. So you only need to open localhost 8080. And this is the Web Stencils demo. So we have the menu that we can move around different areas of the website. I created so the website itself, again, is like some sort of help, so you can see how you can use Web Stencils. But also you have a section here of examples. So for example, we have customers. And in this case, this is just to show, of course, this is not great user experience because we're printing 1,000 customers. Of course, these are fake customers, but we're printing a data set here in an HTML. So this is just a quick way to show you how fast this is. Of course, this should be split in chunks and paginated, etc. But it was just for demo purposes. And we have this other very cool demo that is using HTMX. This is an example of how you can create a very nice modern look and feel application. And as you can see, all of this has been generated directly in the DOM. So on the front end, we're not sending requests or refreshing the page constantly. As I said, all this is available on GitHub, and you can download this code and analyze it yourself. We've also done improvements in mobile, primarily quality improvements. But for example, we updated the linker on Apple's latest version. Also related, now you can statically link libraries written in Xcode, like for example, Firebase iOS SDK. On Android as well, we improved the SDK for Facebook, for Firebase Analytics. Nothing too big, but very, very important key factors for some of our customers. And quality in general has been in pretty much all the areas. Now, for example, we have the Delphi debugger that you can handle. Finally, this was a bug that was annoying me personally, because I'm a big fan of inline variables. So in case you have two loops, for example, you have for loops defining the variable I in both for loops. The debugger, or the watcher in this case, couldn't handle the second I, so because it got stuck in the first one. In this case, has been fixed, so now you can reuse inline variables with the same name inside the same method, and the debugger will track those correctly. Delphi LSP engine has multiple improvements as well. Now we have symbol hens, so it works on most symbols in the class interface. This wasn't available in 12.1. Also, local constants and variables. You can only hover the local constants, and now can resolve their definitions. Forward types declarations, and the Delphi LSP now resolves forward type declarations, not in all cases, but most of them. And Delphi runtime library, we have a new T parallel array. It's just a class method that allows you to order arrays in a much faster way using multi-thread environments. Same thing with the dictionaries. Using this new parallel array allowed us to have an order dictionary as well. And in the T registry class, it has been added in case you want to edit the Windows registry. Support for reg none in case you want to define a property that has no type. And VCL has been primarily quality around the new component introduced in 12.1 forms tab bar. In case you're not familiar with this component, it was introduced to modernize MDI applications. So it allows you to get your MDI application and give it a much modern look and feel, migrating your MDI application to a tab system. So each tab would be an MDI form. So most of the quality has been in this area because there were some problems with the styling and high DPI monitors. Quite a lot of work, but I think it was really worth it. And FireMonkey further work on Android deployment and intensive work quality in many areas, because if you want to be up to date with mobile, you need to be constantly updating the new requirements that iOS and Google pretty much almost on a monthly basis are releasing. And RAD server, quite a lot of improvements as well. Now it supports natively web stencils, so you're gonna now RAD server can do also web, because before it was only JSON or file delivery. It has been fully reworked, the push notifications. So those were broken before 12.2 because Google decided to change the requirement. So only supports HTTP2. So we needed to redo this, and now push notifications are back. And also a bunch of improvements in the Swagger documentation. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but yes, Swagger documentation is to document your APIs in a fairly automatic way. So now we introduce new features to make that work even faster for you. So in general, we addressed approximately 350 customer reported issues in Quality Portal. We've implemented in this version 28 features requests again in Quality Portal, and we keep track. In case you don't know, we have a new Quality Portal, which is qp.embarcadero.com. If you're not registered there, I would encourage you to do so, because it's pretty much what we use internally for everything, not only for you to send requests or bugs, but also even the developer team uses Quality Portal to track the issues and mark them as solved, or in case they need extra info, they will request that there as well. So please take a look and register in Quality Portal. We fully revamped it a few months ago. So now it's cloud hosted. Now we use Jira, and as I said, it's crucial for us that you guys register there and keep your issues and requests in Quality Portal. The old one, in case you're wondering, the old Quality Portal has been marked as read-only, so you cannot create new reports in the old portal, but you can still access and check the status of in case you have an old reported one. And the areas we addressed, well, pretty much all of them, you can see them there. And we have a hotfix already available, actually two, for version 12.1, although the second hotfix is primarily focused on C++. But yeah, the hotfixes are, Marco Cantu and David Millington wrote a few articles about that in our blog post, in case you want to analyze if you're affected by any of this, because usually hotfixes are for very surgical problems that are reported. Then sometimes, I mean, we of course will encourage you to install them, but you can read in more detail about the problems we addressed in these hotfixes.